great independent films, and I wanted you each to talk about what it is in the experience of making an independent film that it's given, the opportunities that it's given each of you.
First of all, you know what's very cool? The pure coincidence, Kate is about to play my girlfriend in a movie, which we just found out this week, and we've known about this award for a while, which is a very wonderful independent film that we're about to go do, so it's kind of a cool little moment.
So let's continue. Tell me about what the experience of making an independent film has been for you and why it's important, what opportunities it's given you.
Well, I can agree very much that, you know, independent films is the great, I think, joy of this career, because they're the films that we probably take most to heart. And the sad truth, as Michael was saying, is that even the festivals have become so competitive about who shows where first. And even if you've been deeply involved in a festival, oftentimes that can limit whether your movie gets seen, even if it's a great movie. And but independent film is the core of, I think, why we all got into it, because it's about storytelling and love, really. I mean, no one's making an independent film unless you love the story, because you're really not making money from it anymore.
Now, Michael, you've certainly been a guy who's covered every aspect of independent filming, producing, directing, writing. Talk a little bit about the idea of handling all those chores.
Well, I mean, the beauty of it is control, basically. I mean, you don't have a big corporate force, you know, dictating what you can do and what you can't do. And I think independent film, you have more of an opportunity to have a singular artistic expression. And the artist has more control, basically, and that's really important. And, it takes someone a long time and a lot of success in this business to have to make movies with big budgets and have that kind of control. Very few artists get it.
And Kate, of course, you know, in making both the short and the upcoming independent feature, I mean, one of the things that we've talked about is the fact that women haven't had a chance to often get the focal point on them, especially in comedy. And you've gotten a few laughs here tonight and throughout, so talk about the idea of getting control of the woman's image in terms of comedy and in the independent film world.
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned before, Kat, who directed this short, and so we met and decided to just do something for Funny or Die, because I had just done something with Funny or Die with Topher Grace, and I had just had a ball, and they give you so much freedom to kind of allow you to do whatever you want and play. And so Kat and I discussed the idea of coming up with something for Funny or Die, and she came up with Idiots, and I said I'm in. And I had just seen Zoe Saldana at an event a few weeks before, and she was also saying how there was such a limited amount of roles in comedy for females, and so I called her up and I said, listen, come play with us on this ridiculous project. And she read the script, and she's like, I'm in, I can't wait, I'm so excited. And so, I don't know, it was our little sort of breakthrough into, I don't know, just generating material that had roles for women in comedy that were the showier pieces, and not just the sort of two-dimensional girlfriend sort of roles that you often see. And as a consequence of this short, Kat and I did a feature together last year with Kristen Ritter and Justin Kirk, and that was also it was an independent film, but just so much fun, and just follows my character and Kristen Ritter's character and their friendship. And sort of what happens when life happens, and it's a really beautiful, poignant but funny film. Yeah.
Well, I think you addressed two ideas here in that comment. One is the word breakthrough. I think one thing that each of you have done in your careers where you could play to the stereotypes that you might all be associated with, and you've done things that have broken through beyond that. I wanted you to talk a little bit about some of the parts or some of the films that you've been in that you feel moved you beyond the stereotypes. And the other thing that you mentioned is that independent films don't have to be necessarily about the big concept, but sometimes it's the small things that you address in the films. So I'd like you to talk about both of those ideas, the roles you've played that sort of allowed you to move into other places and directions that gave you a chance to be seen in another light, and the chance to play characters on a smaller scale that gets a message out in a way that isn't a big concept. I guess we'll go on your end first.
I would love to play on my stereotype a little bit more these days, to be honest with you. You know, the reality is that those big movies, what they do when you do them, things like Sweet Home Alabama and the ones that are successful on a big commercial scale, what they allow you to do is then go do something like what Kate and I are about to do with this Polish Brothers film, which is based on Kerouac's book, Big Sur. But the only way you can go do a movie like that is if you have some, you know, modicum of financeability. And so, you know, it oddly enough becomes important that you continue to feed that stereotype a little bit sometimes in a way that I think allows you to then be able to break it by going and doing a small independent film that is something that no one would expect you to do. I did a movie called Death and Love, which is, some people say pornographic, awful, and some people say is a work of genius. And it is, you know, to me that's part of the joy of this job, is that you can get a duality in people's take on something, and the true element was, it was the director's true life story, so judging it was sort of something that was, I found interesting, because it was almost like judging this man's life, but for me it was amazing because, you know, I'm playing someone almost antithetical to me, and I think because of that, no one went to see it.
And Michael, what were some of those?
Well, before I was on Sopranos, I basically made my living doing independent movies. It wasn't, you know, it was a small living, but it was, I didn't have to wait tables anymore because I was getting enough work in independent movies, and that's who was hiring me at the time. It wasn't so much, you know, by design. But the good thing is that in independence, they'll take more chances on an actor just based on your talent and give you a wide latitude of roles to play. Whereas until you start kind of having success, you know, in Hollywood, they'll tend to stereotype you, or on television, or even when you're trying to break into big movies. So a lot of people think, oh, do you feel like you've been stereotyped? It's like, I had a lot of experience where I played a lot of different roles. Most of them, you know, were seen by a small population of people because they were, you know, little movies and stuff. But I'm very grateful that I've had those experiences, because they're fulfilling as an actor, and I never really felt kind of pigeonholed because of that.